There was once a time when Rome was all the hype in gaming, and often boomed in sales. Rome Total War, Europa Universalis Rome, the Caesar games, Roman Civilization and many RTS titles. It seemed like the basic go-to period for strategy, and often succeeded, taking gaming to the next level with each rendition. But then came the fall of Rome, Rome 2 Total War, which although sold well, was a fail on launch and even now is highly criticised, despite all the patches. Although some do love it and it has a decent player count now, it is clearly not hitting the potential of what should have been expected from a Rome 2 Total War. And then we have Paradox's Imperator Rome, arguably the worst Paradox release ever. Again, going well in sales and pre-orders initially, yet failing with the gameplay and holding on to the audience. Most YouTubers, including myself, used the "it's Paradox, they are meant to be bare bones on launch, it will get better over time" argument. Yet after the release of Crusader Kings 3, I think it's safe to say that Imperator Rome might as well have been called Imperator Etrusca. So that's the backstory. It seems modern Roman games fail. I want to think and discuss why this is, whether or not there's a solution, and would Roman strategy games in the future succeed? So, why did they fail? I've narrowed it down to two reasons, one being on the human end and the other on the technology end. The human side of Rome is based mostly off nostalgia towards the games, not the empire itself. The hype of a Rome 2 Total War, when the only one to go off was Rome 1, but the thought of that being as good and as smooth as Shogun 2 explains the insane level of hype within the Total War community. Their expectations were incredibly high, and the overselling trailers were no help to this at all. And then the technology side. As tech has increased in power, many historical strategy players have become used to and want to see more historical accuracy. This is incredibly difficult to represent with a system like Rome's, that is very in-depth, very hard to replicate with a game, very hard to make enjoyable, and very hard to represent it changing over time. Yet, naturally, with the new engines and graphics, they will want to prioritise historical accuracy. I think this is something we saw in Rome 2. It was over-ambitious. Rome 2 overextended themselves, and then collapsed from the hordes of bad reviews. Rome 1 divided Rome into 4, weakening them, yet united them so they are strong enough to still do well. Then the barbarians were united also, strengthening them. This in turn created a reasonably balanced game. This game could use the oldness of the engine to get away with the inaccuracies for gameplay, to, create an actual game. But Rome 2 could not do that. Imagine the outrage. It had to go historical, which in turn meant it was very difficult to balance Rome. They may have been able to balance it versus some factions, like Carthage, but then what? The player is unstoppable. When playing as Rome, I felt the game was mostly over after securing Carthage. The rest seemed to flow very easily. No threat, no challenge, it felt done. In Rome 1, taking Carthage as the Scipii only feels like one step, a massive step, but still just one in an array of many. We see this with Imperator Rome as well. On the human side, a new Paradox game. CK2 was extremely popular. EU4 getting tons of updates, City Skylines, Stellaris, and of course, Hearts of Iron 4 taking over the YouTube strategy scene. How could any strategy lover not have been somewhat excited for the next big Paradox strategy title, especially knowing it would be set in Rome? Expectations were high, and then, the technology also, we were told it would play like CK2 and EU4 combined, games that released in 2012 and 2013 respectively. Now, 6 years later, 6 years of improvement, what could all that bring to the table? Very little, it turned out, and again with the difficulty. Now, Paradox changed the start era, which did help with the balance, but the game was just far too easy and plagued with many other issues. The factions were very well balanced, but the player to AI was not balanced, it was too easy. I believe because of these two reasons, Rome 2 and Imperator were almost set to fail from the start. There's no chance they could really live up to the hype. Well, what about Crusader Kings 3? That's done well and had a lot of hype behind it. But CK3 was not oversold. CK3 was built off CK2. It had a development base and a fan base, a clear set thing it wanted to be like, but better. Imperator and Rome 2 did not really have that. Rome 2, for example, was the first game to emphasise generals over normal armies we are familiar with. It changed everything in Total War and felt like a very new style of game. And Imperator was a weird blend of two other games, but CK3 knew exactly what it wanted to be from the start and had a proven style to go by. Also, CK3 was not as hyped up by the developers than Imperator. Overall, there were far fewer Twitch streams from the devs and way less YouTuber access. The marketing campaign was very calm. For example, I was a channel with about 2,000 subscribers. I got Imperator 2 weeks early to cover what I wanted. It was all great. I got CK3 at 15,000 subscribers, and I got 1 day of early access. That was the most they would give me. Same goes for others as well. All round, the marketing campaign was much smaller, so when the game did release, it was above expectations, not below. Paradox learnt, and this is why I am also confident of a Medieval 3 being a success. The Creative Assembly developers have learnt also. Look at the Rome 2 trailers compared to trailers now. Much more of what is actually in the game and less cinematics. However, does this mean Rome is dead? I do not think so. I think Paradox and CA could certainly revisit the Roman world. In fact, I think it would be good of them if they did. Go back and do it right this time. Currently, Rome 2 is seen as the latest Rome title, and it failed, which is still a bad image on CA to some extent. To come back, do a Rome 3 that is a success would blanket over Rome 2 and make it appear like a one-off. Of course though, lessons will need to be learnt. CK3 is the perfect example of a game being incredibly in-depth and appearing complex, when in fact a casual can understand it fairly easily, compared to other Paradox titles. That is what future Rome titles need: depth, not complexity, and depth in a way that is also accurate. It is a very difficult task to pull off, but if Paradox can make feudalism as deep yet simple as it is in CK3, then really anything is possible. And lastly, don't oversell again. It just looks really bad after launch. I think they have learnt here. I hope they have learnt here. Anyway, that is all. What do you think? Were these two games always meant to fail to some extent? And do you think a comeback is possible? A Rome 3 Total War, or an Imperator 2? Someday. I have been MELKOR. Subscribe for more daily videos and share with anyone you think may be interested. And for now, until tomorrow's video, goodbye.